So you founded Absolute Collagen with your mum, and that smile I think is quite telling. So do you think there is anything maybe that you would have done differently in terms of working with your mum?
I think if my mum had a partner, it wouldn't have worked. She was taking big risks. We were taking big risks as a family.
So when you launched and you didn't have any sales right off the bat, what was your firstly initial impression and gut feeling? And then also how did you then overcome?
Like, all you've got to do is the next right thing. I could be quite ruthless. You need to just find your niche. Like, I see a lot of beauty brands and skincare brands now and just starting out, and I look and think, like, you need to own it. Like, you need to be ownable, you need to be identifiable. That looks like everything else.
Were you super passionate about skincare in any other personal way?
I love the fact that you can kind of build beauty through like strength of your own body, if that makes sense.
Completely.
They can get in Canva.
Not even Photoshop?
No.
Okay, cool.
I've learned Photoshop now.
So you guys, you can launch a company with Canva.
I just know that there's more people in this business now to protect, and that's a bigger responsibility, so we can't take those risks, I guess. You have to be like ruthlessly dissatisfied.
Welcome to The Ground Floor, the podcast where we ask successful people exactly how they did it. Our guest today is Darcy Laceby, the co-founder of Absolute Collagen, a times 100 business that did 21 million in revenue last year alone. They created the UK's best-selling collagen drink, and Darcy herself is in the Forbes 30 under 30. So without further ado, please welcome Darcy Laceby.
Nice to have you.
Thank you for having me here.
No problem at all. How you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. On this rainy London day.
So you founded Absolute Collagen with your mum, which is obviously quite an original story because that doesn't happen very often. So why don't you take us sort of for a few minutes back to the very, very beginning. How did that even come about?
Yeah, of course. So I went off to uni to do food science. I actually applied to do psychology and then randomly changed last minute, which is kind of like a weird curveball in the story. My sister turned 17 so she could learn to drive. And my mum woke up one day and kind of sat at the end of the bed and was like, I haven't got any kids. Like, what do I do? Like, I have this life. Like, I can do anything with it. She hadn't got to be like the mum, the best friend. Like, she realized she could be kind of whoever she wanted to be. So she always had this affinity with art, fine art. She's like, I'm going to do an art degree. So she embarked on that. We both did a year of uni with nothing, kind of no synergies really. Luckily it wasn't the same uni because that wouldn't have, she would have a better social life than me, I think.
Right.
Probably.
Wow.
Yeah, she was quite wild, but she was always that person that sort of walked in the room. She was like the entertainer, but that wasn't kind of like who she truly was, if that made sense. But in doing this art degree, she did she could kind of choose what she wanted to do. Like, art students are wacky and eccentric. I think we can all
Very true.
agree on that one.
Very true.
But she did this project and she called it Dare to Go Bare. And she turned up at my bedroom door one day with a big tattoo here, a nose piercing, and I've got quite long, like, curly hair. She did too. She chopped it all off and stripped the colour out. When you strip the colour out of something, it goes yellow, ginger, orange, and had this like wacky hair. And I was like, oh my God, you've lost it. Like, she bought a motorbike 2 years before, like a Ducati, like 900.
Your mum sounds like just an absolute legend.
Oh, yeah,
like, so far, I mean.
Yeah, she's pretty cool. She's cooler than me, to be honest.
Okay.
Like,
She's cooler than most people from the sound.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, like when I was little, like all our friends want to come around to our house because they'd say like there was no rules, but there was. She wasn't like a crazy hippie mum or anything like that.
Right.
But she did this project, didn't wear any makeup. What she realized is she wasn't very confident, and kind of woke up and thought that's not right. Like, how can she kind of change that? So she started looking at like what she was putting in her body. She thought, you could go down like the cosmetic route, Botox and all of those things.
Yeah.
But she didn't want to do that. So she looked at what she was putting in her body. And at the time, everyone in America was drinking bone broth.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you get, like if you've done like a roast dinner and you get the bones and you boil them down.
Yeah.
And you get this like Jew essentially. So everyone in America was doing that. And she's like, I'm gonna do that too. So she's making it. And literally in our fridge was like gravy boats just filled of this stuff. And we didn't know what it was. She's drinking it every day. And her friends were like, what are you doing? You look good. Like your skin's glowing, your hair's glowing. What are you taking? She's like, I mean, this stuff, but I don't know what it is. Do you want some? It's like, yeah, cool. And she like became known as the collagen dealer. So like after some research, we realized it was the collagen and like trying to find out what the best sort of form is, etc. And we then had this thing in a sachet. And then December 17, we launched a website. We didn't sell anything. Like no one came to said website because we weren't asking anyone to come there, and that was a big shock actually.
I think that's quite normal, to be honest, when you're starting a business with no traction.
Yeah,
it's quite normal to sort of not have any sales on day one.
Yeah, exactly. We weren't really doing any marketing either, so I
Yeah.
don't know what we expected to happen. But yes, that was December 17, and then slowly, we found like direct consumer marketing through sort of Facebook, Instagram, word of mouth, and then it kind of took off from there.
So with the initial product, how did it go from having a sort of, as you say, just a kind of boat in the fridge with bone broth to actually formulating a sort of scientifically tested, ready for market product?
Yeah, when we kind of found out it was collagen, we looked on the market and like what was out there already. And surprisingly, there wasn't really anything. Like there was a couple of skin supplements with other ingredients, but beauty supplements were quite new at that point. So it was about researching what the best type of collagen was, but the best form of collagen. And it's a really confusing market, especially for consumers. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and trying to like dig through the science, like speaking to experts. We knew we wanted something like incredibly convenient, didn't need to be kept in the fridge, the maximum of like what you could get in the minimum dose. That was really important.
Okay.
But yeah, that's kind of how we got to the 8,000 milligrams with vitamin C in a little yellow sachet, really.
And how did you go, once you decided that was what you needed, how did you then actually put that into production and get your sort of MVP product, if you like?
Yeah, we were going through some old emails the other day, actually. And me and my mum must have looked like crazy people. Like, you've got this like 55-year-old woman. She never worked.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so she met my dad when she was 25.
Yeah.
And then he had 2 kids already, so my older sisters, and became a stay-at-home mum. So yeah, and me, he was at uni, just emailing like, so this collagen, can we import it? What's the regulations? Like, and then going to a blender and being like, can you mix this? Like, how do we make it like shelf stable? Blah, 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 blah. And then we found a manufacturer to put it into sachets, and they're ace. Like, we still speak to them like pretty much every day. They do all our packing. They were the ones, I guess, that took like the risk or chance on us.
Okay. Yeah.
Because we're doing relatively small volumes. Like, their other customers are huge.
Yeah. Sure.
But now we're one of their biggest, and we're part of their sort of ecosystem, which is lovely.
Was there a degree, I suppose, when you were building that initial product of being nervous? Because I assume when you're doing consumables, there's a much greater risk about what you're actually putting into a product versus something you put on your skin or clothing or anything like that.
Yeah.
So was there any nervousness around that?
So that's the crazy thing. So obviously we have cosmetics now.
Yeah.
Cosmetics are so regulated, like ridiculously, which is amazing for the consumer. You have to do your testing. You have to upload like your toxicology reports, your report shelf life to the government website. Like, it's on there. It's on the government gateway. Food, you can, as long as you have kind of the, your some food safety stuff, which not really people, they don't really check that. Like, Trading Standards doesn't check it. You're kind of left to your own devices, which isn't good. It's not a good way of operating, because we sit in between. We're not a medicine.
Yeah.
Not pure food. We're a supplement. We sit in the food category, which is just not regulated. And that's the problem with collagen. So you can get collagen from a lot of things. So like, we use type 1, which is skin. We use fish skin to get that. It's just kind of how it works. You can, but like, think of how many types of fish are out there.
Yeah.
And it's all based on the amino acid profile of that specific collagen from the fish that's gonna do the good stuff, if that makes sense. You then have like fish that are farmed or natural, and the fish we use, they like to live in crowded spaces. If you get them out in the wild, they generally live in really toxic environments. So you need to educate the consumer that you don't really want farmed wild fish. You want farmed, and it's really difficult you always want to do what's right as a company, and you always want to give the consumer the best thing, but sometimes it takes that education.
And how did you teach yourself that process?
Oh gosh, we have this saying, like, me and my mum, and I didn't really think of it as a saying until someone said it the other day, is like, all you've got to do is the next right thing. So like, whatever we do, we always try and do it like what we'd want. So we'd never do anything that's against regulation. My mum's always like, I love paying tax. Like, we're very by the book people. Like, we're not really risk takers, which is, my mum's a risk taker. I'm completely adverse. Like, we are opposites.
Okay. Right.
In everything, probably.
That's nice though, because then you complement each other.
Yeah, it's a good balance.
Yeah, she's like the crazy one, and I just like pick up the pieces.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. That makes sense.
I'm like the organised one.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it works. We don't have that like mummy daughter best friend relationship. Like, we're not like that. We have like a really solid, like, she lets me do my thing, I let her do her thing, and that's how it kind of works. You know, my parents split up when I was 12, and I think I kind of always tried to take over that like dad role, if that makes sense, in our house, like doing the food shopping. And she gave me a credit card when I was 12, and I could order from like Ocado and Sainsbury's, and it was amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
So in terms of the initial idea to make it a proper thing, to take it away from her just sort of making things for her friends and to actually take it to something serious, was it your idea? Did you kind of spot what she was doing and go, hey, this could be a business? Or was it her being like, I think we could really make something out of this? Who came to who?
Yeah, no, I was always the one that kind of operationally put things in place. She was the one that was like, oh, like this could work. And originally we were in a bottle, like a Calpol bottle with like
yeah.
And that didn't work. Like collagen, the Greek word's glue, it's like sticky.
Okay.
And it doesn't work like that. And it was always just like, we work very well together. Like I'd come up with an idea, she'd come up with an idea, and then you kind of just work towards that goal. Like we actually work quite separate, if that makes sense. But then we always get to the right place. So it's Maxine's idea, Absolute Collagen. 100%. But operationally, I was the one that kind of put everything into action.
I'm with you.
So at the very beginning of turning it into a product, how do you know where to find sort of physically putting it all together? Because I think that's the stuff that people be most interested in, thinking you've got this idea, maybe you've got a rough kind of homebrew.
Yeah.
How do you make it a real thing?
So we went to Trading Standards, and I remember like they gave us a call and they were like, we deal with cakes, like this is exciting, this is cool, like we'll help you. And even the Department of International Trade, and I know we weren't trading internationally, but they were really helpful. They'd come around, they'd give us like free law advice, trying to look at trademarks and all that, because that's confusing, contracts, like getting contracts set up with these people. But really for us, it was like a lot of hard work and just like Googling. I know that's not what you want to hear, but normally.
No, but that's an honest answer.
Yeah, it's a good
so
point.
we know we wanted a sachet. Okay, like how can we find a sachet manufacturer? We didn't really know about trade shows at that time, which now looking back probably would have gone to. Just Googling, finding things you like, finding products you like, and just trying to find that person. But collagen was an emerging market, like it was still in its infancy, and we've grown the market in the UK. So it was quite easy to get suppliers on board in terms of ingredients. But we just approached contract manufacturers, and they usually have their, exclusive relationships with ingredient suppliers, flavoring suppliers.
Yeah.
So they're more than happy to make we went to them with, want 10 grams of collagen, 8 grams of collagen, 1 vitamin C, small dose, blah, blah, blah. How do you make it shelf stable? How do you make sure it tastes good? Because I don't know if you've ever tried collagen on its own.
No, can't say I have. No.
Yeah, it's made of fish, so it's
not tasty. Okay.
Not tasty. But luckily, with the amazing development work, it tastes great now. Most of our consumers would agree.
I'm sure they would. How big was the first batch? Do you remember? Like your first minimum order?
Yeah, so we were ordering, like we had to do like a ton at a time.
Right.
So a ton was roughly 8,000 units.
Wow.
And that was a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. Yeah.
But we did a smaller ton. We did a 500 kilogram batch, and I remember that lasted like a year.
Right.
And we were trying to reformulate because we'd formulated with a chemical sweetener. We wanted to be natural. That process took ages, and I remember I was like, "We're going to run out in 3 days. It needs you need to blend it. We need to pack it." Because you have to wait for your micro results. So we ran out, and I remember sat there at the printer, like printing, because we had a male and a female product, but they were identical. Printing notes to put in the women's order, like that we're going to send the men's, but it's the same. Don't panic.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, and you do all these things, like you just like grasp and run with it, don't you? And you have to.
Did you ever feel like when you were having a situation like that, where the men's were going to the females if you needed to? Did you ever have any customers come back and be like, "Oh, why are there two versions?" Or
Yeah, definitely. So when we launched with the branding that had it wasn't really a woman, but like a female figure on the front of it. It was never supposed to be for women, but a yellow box with a woman's face on it. We aren't marketing geniuses.
Okay.
Maybe we are now, who knows? It just, it was a beauty supplement. It's just going to be for women. Men were asking that, like, the partners and the girlfriend, the partners and the husbands, etc., friends were like, why have you not got men's product? We're like, well, it's for men. Like, it's either. They're like, no, we need our own. Like, we want our own. We're like, okay, fair enough. And I think that's right. So we developed different packaging for men. Now we don't we don't believe in that. We don't believe it's the right thing, if that makes sense. Like, we live in such more fluid times. So we still have that product, mainly because women's and men's on SEO rank well, but and you do have to think about those things.
Sure.
So you have to like weigh up the pros and the cons. But we are developing it into one product eventually.
And so when you launched and you didn't have any sales right off the bat, what was your firstly initial impression and gut feeling? And then also, how did you then overcome? What was the next step?
Right, so this is going to sound crazy. At that point, we still weren't really trying to create a business. Honestly, we were doing like £3,000 a month, and it was like friends and family, and we were like, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Like, I was still at uni. It was me, Maxine, and a guy called Brad. At that point, Brad did all the, we call him the tech man, but that's such an insult. He's way more than the tech man. Right. He's like everything to do with the website and things like that. But yeah, we, like I said, official launch, December 17 was with the website. Mm-hmm. We launched in May 17 at like a trade show. But word of mouth kind of worked. So I remember like May we were doing like £3,000-4,000, and then it was like 7, and I'm like, oh, this is okay. But then we found a digital marketer, and that was the point. That was everything kind of changed.
Okay.
I think the cool thing about growing with word of mouth as well is that, like, especially if it's a skincare product where it's so results focused and so measurable, you know, people's skin is either improving or it's not. I think to grow by word of mouth is pretty amazing, because it means like that's the best testament to the product that you can really have.
Yeah, we look at like, if you look at like our first click or last click data, it's always Facebook, Google, blah blah blah. And we did a survey with, I think it was 5,000 of our customers in February last year, or February 21 or something. And like 50% of them had come to us through word of mouth.
Wow.
Like
that's insane. 50%?
Yeah, it was crazy. Or they'd heard about it through, and it was mainly like salon referrals or your dermatologist or your friend. And usually it's like your barber. And it's normally they find out about it because they're going to their friend like, oh, you look good. Like, you look more confident or something. And they're like, oh, well, I've been taking this stuff. And then that's kind of how it trickles in. Yeah. So our community, and like we call them absoluters. That's massive for us. Like that's the thing that makes AC is our customers, really.
No, I bet. I mean, that is, as you say, the best way to advertise a product, especially something like you're doing. Yeah. There's the kind of consumable side. It's the trust element that you need, right? Yeah. With what you're doing.
They're ace as well. They'll tell us when they know something.
Okay.
A message of like, does Maxine know about this? I'm like, yeah.
In terms of your demographic split, what's the kind of split between men and women?
Men's really small now. It's like 6%.
Right.
So not big at all. But like our kind of key customer, like our core customer, is sort of 45, 55. Usually during sort of menopause, perimenopause, it's kind of like the point where women sort of look, you know, kids have gone to uni, same as my mum, kids have left the house or whatever it is. And they can kind of think, okay, I need like to think about myself a bit more. Like, this is the time in my life when I can think about me. And it's really interesting to like see and follow those women along that journey, to kind of like self-discovery and kind of realizing their self-worth, I guess.
Yeah, no, I bet.
When you first made the website, because obviously that was when things became really real, or when the tech guy made the website, to give him his credit, was there a moment where in the initial marketing you had a specific strategy, or was it sort of using word of mouth to drive to the website?
Word of mouth was accidental.
Right, okay.
Honestly, looking back, we had no idea what we were doing.
Right.
Really, no idea.
Were you running SEO or PPC stuff?
Yeah, so basically, when the website went live in December 17, nothing happened. And Maxine actually went to a digital marketing conference, and this lady, Tash, was doing a talk, and Maxine's ballsy, like she'll put herself out there.
She's got a Ducati. She has to be ballsy. I mean, that's crazy.
She actually sold it to start the business.
Really?
And then phoned the person to try and buy it back, but he'd sold it. So
she sold her motorbike to start a business. That is commitment.
More than that, she went, Darcy, I'm going to have to remortgage the house if we want to do this.
Oh, wow.
So she remortgaged the house.
She remortgaged the house to start a business?
So when you were saying when you launched that you still weren't thinking of it as a real business, you missed out the fact that your mum put her house on the line and sold her motorbike.
Like I think we never had like a real, there was a sense that we want to do something for people. Like, we had an amazing product that we wanted to get out there. It was never about the money. Like, it's never been about the money, if that makes sense. So it was like, oh my God, we've got another customer. And we used to have the Shopify like cha-ching don't know if you
familiar. Well familiar.
I'm like, we used to sit at dinner, we used to go off, and you'd be like, oh my god,
yeah.
it's amazing.
And that's I think that's the best feeling. That's a really important thing at the beginning as well, because those little wins, when you hear that cha-ching, it's like, oh my god, this is starting to become real.
I'm like, we've educated, taught someone, and they've bought our product, and they're going to see amazing benefits. Like, it's an amazing feeling.
For sure.
So she remortgaged a house, which is interesting. But like I said, not risk averse. My life is, I'm nervous wreck because of Maxine. But yeah, so she went to a digital marketing conference. Lady did a talk, and Maxine stood up and was like, "You taking more clients?" And she was like, "No." Maxine didn't take no for an answer, so walked up to her after and just handed her this yellow box, which is our product. And we have this joke with Tash, this lady now, that like woman with the yellow box, like when that woman with the yellow box came up to me, and that's like the moment, like the kind of turning point for us. So I remember sitting down, and it was, I think, £8,000 a month. So that was your fees and your ad spend.
Yeah.
For the first month, and I was like, oh my god, that's a lot of money.
When you're starting out, that's huge.
Yeah, like that's a lot of money. And if it doesn't work, how are we funding month 2? And if that doesn't work, how am I funding month 3? And this is why it works, because she just goes like full steam ahead, and I'm like, like let's fix everything.
Slow down.
Yeah. She used to like double, triple pay invoices, like forget to pay. Yeah, she's great.
So she's really the creative kind of wildcat, wild card. Yeah.
Yeah, she's ace. I remember we sat down once, we were like, hey, how much, like, what is the goal? And the goal was to do that ton, so that 8,000 units a month. And I was like, thinking, that's a lot. We've got to shift a lot of product.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of people. But then we turned on the subscription. So at that point, we were one time, like I said, no idea what we were doing. We didn't do it on subscription, even though someone needs to buy it every 4 weeks.
Right.
Would make sense now, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And it was letterbox friendly. Also, like, not an accident, but like incredible. Like, it works so well. So yeah, then when we turn on subscription, so that's our main product now, really, is just to subscribe. That was like crucial for us, because then you start learning about, well, I say learn about LTV. We actually only learned about LTV when we took investment, really.
Okay. For anyone listening, do you want to just give a quick summary of what LTV is, in case I'm really conscious of people that might not know?
So LTV is your lifetime value. So when you acquire a customer, say for £10, your CPA, how long that customer stays with you and how long that customer spends with you is ultimately their lifetime value.
Got you.
Yeah.
And so was all of this in the run up to the trade show? Was this post trade show?
Post
trade show.
Yeah. So all of this was post. So yeah, I did the trade show and we had loads of stuff to sell. The stand next to us dropped out, so we had this massive stand and we had nothing to put on it.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh god. And this is so cringe looking back. So we have this woman on the front of the box, and she's not on it anymore, but she's like a little bit alien-y. Like, she's got like short ginger bob, bright green eyes.
Okay.
And we're like, we're going to hire 20 models to dress up like her and walk around Birmingham.
Interesting.
Yeah, wow. It was like a really failed attempt at guerrilla marketing. But that's the thing, like, you're gonna lose, like, you're gonna do stuff. And why do we do that?
Yeah. So were they walking around handing out the product, or was it just some kind of with the Instagram on the chest or something? Or?
Yeah, so we had them in like, like a nurse, like outfit thing. So like grey, like a salon, grey, just grey things, and then a big yellow sash that said #Absolute. That's kind of where #Absolute came from. Okay. And then they had grey ginger wigs and then like green contact lenses,
right?
And we just got them to walk around like holding a box, looking like
bemused.
And we got told off, like they had to stop after a couple of hours.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, that's one form of marketing, isn't it?
Yeah. Right? Well, we didn't realise you had to get permission. Like, that's how little we knew.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that either.
It was in the NEC in Birmingham.
Right.
Okay,
so like they're walking around the exhibit and like outside the exhibit on the train and stuff.
Okay. There's some rules.
Yeah, apparently.
And when you're at the trade show and you launched, given that it was still an emerging market, as you mentioned, but there's still kind of consumables as a whole, and supplements was quite a saturated market. How did you actually make your product stand out?
So at that point we were still in bottles.
Okay.
So we were trying to get rid of that stock essentially, because we knew we wanted to turn it into sachets. But we weren't sure. People didn't know what collagen was, so it was quite easy to speak to someone and kind of say, do you know what collagen is? No. Okay, well, you're made of collagen and it depletes. Take this, you'll top it back up and you'll get amazing results. So like, do you want me to explain about collagen?
Yeah, that'd be helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, so like, actually, collagen's everywhere. Like it's the biggest protein in your body. It's in your skin, nails, teeth, eyes, like joints, bones, like it's literally everywhere. And you get different types. So as you age, and a wrinkle's really easy to explain because you can see it. You can't really see your bones. As we age, you get worse at sort of depleting the stores. So like a wrinkle forming is collagen degrading.
Okay.
It's kind of easy to understand.
Yeah.
It's a massive protein, like I said, like your body can't get rid of it, so it chops it up into little pieces. With a supplement, you're ingesting those little pieces to trick your body into thinking more's breaking down. So it creates more.
Okay.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah, so it's great for like people with like joint issues is
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the biggest thing it's been used for, really. Yeah, it's great for skin, hair, nails, and anything like that.
Were you really passionate about this before it launched? And first of all, were you drinking it before it became a product yourself? As in, were you one of the kind of lab rats that your mum gave the stuff to?
It was literally like stock. Like I was eating stock cubes for
Okay.
years.
And so were you super passionate about skincare in any other personal way? Or was it more like, this could be a business and it is a good product, let's just run with that?
Yeah, so I love food. Hence I did food science at uni. Like food supplements, that's what I love. Sport, like, is my thing, I guess. I love developing things, and weirdly what I wanted to do before I went to uni is like procurement and operations in a food company, which is what I kind of COO of Absolute Collagen for like the first 3 years. Like, that's what I got to do. I love like problem solving, like that's one of my big passions. Skincare, like I've never been a big like makeup person, that's not really my thing. Skincare, I love the fact that you can use kind of like supplements and skincare and kind of build beauty through like strength of your own body, if that makes sense.
Completely.
Rather than like covering up or putting something on top, etc.
Completely agree, yeah.
So I've kind of fallen into this, but it's through a passion, like it's through like a backdoor passion, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But now I love it. Like skincare is so interesting. Now I know that this is my place.
This is your calling.
No, it's a really nice story. So when you got your kind of brand officer on board, then that, as you said, was the turning point for the business. In what way? What was the impact of that?
You mean getting Tash on board to the marketing? Yeah, of course. So it's weird, actually. We were a 3. So me, Brad, and Maxine. Tash was a 3. They worked out of a shed in their back garden. We worked out of Maxine's family home. And we didn't know what to mark. Like, we had no shoot. Like, we've never done a photo shoot. All the products we're taking is from like the original branding that we did. And that also was a key learning point. Like, we'd approached a company in Shrewsbury, where I live, and said, like, your branding's great. Like, how did you do it? And they were like, we had a really bad experience, wasted loads of money. These guys are good. So we use a company called Source in Shrewsbury. They're ace, still use them today.
Source,
yeah. Quite a small company, but we have like a great relationship with them.
Just for anyone listening, is that sauce as in a sauce you might put on food, or sauce as in the source of the problem?
The source of the problem.
Got it.
Yeah.
And the solution.
So we only had like the images, of like that they'd created from like our original brand shoot. So we didn't have any videos or anything. And Tash was like from Bolt Digital, who are based in London actually. Was like, you need some content. Like, we can't sell your products, you've got no content. Like, we were pushing, subscribe and save, like a picture of a sachet, yellow background. They can get in Canva, by the way.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Not even Photoshop.
No.
Okay, cool.
I've learned Photoshop now.
Nice. So you can launch a company with Canva. Make that clear now, although Photoshop's ideal.
So Tash was like, look, you're going to have to create some content. So we're like, okay, we'll film Maxine. We'll film her doing, she's very passionate about women and basically just doing your own thing, if that makes sense. So film we're talking about what she talks to me about anyway. Like, we did a video where we literally videoed her driving and talking, because she's better if she's relaxed.
Okay.
Don't give her a script.
Yeah.
No, just let her talk. We did like a day in the life. It's so cringy. I look back. And what I used to do in the mornings, I'd grab my laptop and I'd go sit in bed with my mum at like 7. And we did that every morning, like with a cup of tea. And we just so Tash was like, we're going to capture that moment. So you've got this video of me and my mum sat in bed on a laptop. So my friends are like, do you sit with your mum? I'm like, no, not what happened. But yeah, we just created some content that we thought people were going to like. And it was just real. I used to sit there. I must have messaged so many customers and be like, will you do some videos for us? And that was back in 2017, like that. UGC was quite new, not new, but like not.
Again, for anyone listening,
thing.
UGC is user generated content.
Sorry, yeah.
No, it's totally fine. I'm always conscious of anyone listening. Same with LTV. I was like, just good so that everyone knows.
So we would message some customers who had left us positive reviews on like Instagram, Facebook, on our ads. Say like, I do take this, like it's good. And I'd be like, look, do you want to take a video of your experience? And we'd send that to the marketing agency, and that really worked really well for us. And then I would also say like, do you want to post it on your own social? That was ace. That worked really well. It's just about trying like new things, and
yeah, completely.
You've got to be motivated because there's so much to do.
Yeah, and I think UGC is a really big thing as well, because I think it's, as you said, it's only kind of been around for a few years to that degree. But I think with the rise of platforms like TikTok, where the value of having a genuine person, not someone in like a fake doctor's outfit or something on a TV sort of ad commercial, having someone just in their bedroom on an iPhone camera being like, this product is genuinely a game changer, will sell so many more units than something that people can kind of, because I think people are more cottoning on, especially with the rise of podcasting. It's less formulaic, it's less kind of calculated, and people are cottoning on more to the value of authenticity. So it's great that you tapped into it so early.
Yeah, I mean, if we create like a really lovely brand video, amazing, lovely, put it on TikTok, everyone's like, nope, don't try and do your pretty graphic stuff on here. Like, I just want real people content.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Massively. So in terms of hiring, you had your friends from uni. Did you sort of say, right, guys, we're doing this properly. Do you want to come on salary kind of full time?
So it was me, Brad, and Mum, Maxine. I always did operations. Brad did tech and systems. Together we did marketing. The next hire after that was weirdly like a full-time. So this lady called Katie, she's still with us, just to do community management, which probably wouldn't full-time community manager for employees. Probably like not the best use of anyone's time. But we had digital marketing agencies, so that was fine, all outsourced. And we outsourced a lot of that for ages, and we still do, to be honest. And then because me and Brad and Maxine were like running the business, the next hire after that was just a marketing manager, someone to help kind of just like get the content in, etc. Like think about what we're doing next. And our channel split was so narrow. Like we didn't have any breadth. We were like 80% Meta, so Facebook and Instagram, 10% Google.
Okay.
And then like we were trying to do Pinterest, it wasn't really working. Trying to do other stuff wasn't really working. But yeah, we didn't really get anyone senior in until December, probably like November 2019, 2020, when we hired some more like senior marketing figures. Like we didn't hire our first marketing director till after our investment in December 2020. So we hired a marketing officer, then early 21, then a CEO, CFO, and now we have like a great C-suite team, but that's only really been built in the last like year. So,
and you mentioned that you were doing operations, Brad was doing tech and systems, and what was your mum's main focus?
She was doing more sort of out-facing things. So like she's really passionate about charity, talking at events and those kind of things. She's all about like the vision for the brand, like seeing customers, etc. Figuring out like she does this thing, like she goes out, she'll always say, and this is such rubbish, she's like, I don't know what I do in this business, but it's rubbish. She's the one that like goes out and finds things, and then we're like, okay, we can do it. Like this is how we do it. Like this is how we put it into action. That's why it like works. She always says like one of her greatest skills is realizing what she's not good at.
It's a really good skill. Yeah, really good skill.
So she's always brought in like Brad on the web front, me. I remember like she was like, me? Amazon? I was like, yeah, we do it on Amazon. She's like, I'll try and set it up. And I was like, okay. The Amazon's a nightmare to set up.
Yeah.
Especially like food supplements, the regulations and stuff.
Yeah, sounds like my worst nightmare.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, we'll just, that's the thing, you just have to try, don't you?
Sure.
Yeah. A lot of the people that we've had on have said exactly the same thing. It's just trying and failing and learning and just repeating that process.
Yeah, you have to be like ruthlessly dissatisfied. Yeah. And that's something that I've had to learn. Like now we've got a big team, there's sort of 55, 60 of us. We've done something great. Like we've launched our TV ad, for instance, last year. And now I'll just be like, okay, let's do the next thing. That's not good for the team. Like the team need to know that you're proud, you're happy, this is amazing, and they've all done a good job. But I'm just like, I remember actually seeing someone from the Department of International Trade that helped at the beginning, came into our office a couple of months ago, and he was like, "Oh, Darcy, you've done it, like Absolute Collagen, amazing that you've done it." And I pointed out, I went, if this all goes bad, there's like 50 people and families that this affects. Like until I don't know when I'll get to the point. I don't think I'll have that point in my head, like in terms of scale. But I just know that there's more people in this business now to protect, and that's a bigger responsibility. So we can't take those risks, I guess.
Completely.
Yeah.
No, I think that's true.
You touched on your relationship with your mum, but I think that's a really interesting thing to circle back to, because I think a lot of people will have impressions about what it could be like working with family or working with friends. And that smile, I think, is quite telling. So do you think there is anything maybe that you would have done differently in terms of working with your mum? And what if someone was to ask you, I'm thinking of going into business with maybe a family member, what do you think?
If looking back, I would give my mum more of a break. I could be quite ruthless.
Right.
Yeah. But we are very direct and straight with each other, and that kind of scares people sometimes. So yeah, my boyfriend works at AC. So we've been together since before Absolute Collagen. Yeah. He was an accountant, and every evening I'd be like, numbers. I'm dyslexic, mum's dyslexic. Don't give us anything to do with.
Right.
Yeah, maths. And then, so he came on board. My little sister does all our organic social media.
Okay.
I think, and it might sound really bad, my dad and my mum split up when I was 12. I think if my mum had a partner, it wouldn't have worked. Does that make sense?
Yeah. In what way?
Like another man, like a man in the house. We were working from home. She was taking big risks. We were taking big risks as a family. I think if there was another person in that situation, that she could have.
They could have been like, are you sure this is a good idea?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
someone to dissuade her almost.
Yeah. And I think our relationship's awesome. Like we have, my mum's like very creative and wacky. She always says like, we are but three. This is like her thing. And it's like, whichever one of us needs to step forward at the time, being me, my sister, or her, like we'll do, and we'll kind of like lead on that. But yeah, I think, you know, she's with my dad for 15 years. AC wouldn't be where it is if she didn't, one, stop drinking. So she's not drank for like 10 years now. Or two, like split up with my dad because she wouldn't have realised her own kind of confidence worth issues. So it's all happened. That's the thing with business, isn't it? Like everyone's like, how did you do it? Like blah, 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 blah. I'm like, right product, right time. Like there's a lot of luck involved. Like there is, like you can work as hard as you want, but there's certain moments that can be like the pinnacle of the turning point of you doing something. Yeah. And I'm sure if we made a load of those decisions differently, we wouldn't have been in the same position.
Sure.
And a lot of that is down to luck, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you remember how much you started with? I know you said you had £8,000 for the first month of marketing budget. Do you remember how much initial overall capital you had?
Yes. So in total, the business cost us $240,000 to set up.
Right. And that was predominantly from the remortgaging in the bike, or was it sort of loans, or did you have sort of money saved?
Remortgaged bike and then borrowed money
right.
off my... Oh, she's like my nan, but not related to me.
Right.
With you. And where did you allocate that capital at the start? How did you allocate it?
Branding, getting the first batch in. We've always worked from home. So, well, not anymore. That'd be weird. So there was sort of just getting the distribution center set up. Branding was really important. Like we put a lot of money into that, probably more than you'd expect or think. And then literally the marketing budget, because £8,000 the first month didn't return us £8,000 in the second. Like
for someone listening who might be curious about the branding side of it, how much sort of in terms of the allocation of the money into the branding part of it, what literally does that get spent on? Because marketing is more straightforward. It could be PPC, it could be Facebook ads. PPC is pay-per-click. But for branding, where does that money go?
Yeah, so I think, I can't remember off the top of my head, I think it was around £8,000, possibly a bit more. And we went to them with a vision, like this is the product, this is how I want to make people feel, this is what it stands for, and this is how we're going to sell it, hopefully. And this is the thing I don't like necessarily about marketing companies, is I come back and be like, okay, I'll make your brand, I'll make your logo, we'll do like business cards. Like, you don't need business cards. Take them out the quote.
Yeah.
You don't want pen designs and all of that stuff.
Company t-shirt.
Yeah, and they were like, we'll do 8 really nice photos. We'll do your logo. We'll do your brand typography, like how things are going to sit, like your hierarchy. Might touch on like tone of voice, like how you want to sound as a brand, but that's probably a bit further down the line. So you probably don't really get necessarily that much, but it's worth the investment for sure. Like I see a lot of beauty brands and skincare brands now and just starting out, and I look and think, like you need to own it. Like you need to be ownable. You need to be identifiable. That looks like everything else on the shelf. And you know, the color yellow isn't enough for us to stand out. Like we have to do more than that.
Yeah.
For instance, like we don't really have an icon. We're just developing one. You get your icon, your logo, and things like that. But remember to trademark it.
Yeah, a lot of people overlook
That's a
that
really
from
good
day
point.
one, to be honest with you. A lot of people. Is there a part of you that looks back and thinks you could have maybe started it with a small amount of money? And if so, how would you have essentially started it with less?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I know Facebook's a bit different now with all the cookie changes and privacy tracking, etc. We were putting in a certain amount of money. We could have halved that and probably still got probably more than half the sales. Usually you scale and it doesn't really hold. So yeah, we definitely could have done that. And there's different ways that we could have marketed, to be honest. Like we know salons we don't use them, but they're a crucial part of Absolute Collagen. Go to salons, sell to salons. But the beauty of D2C is like you're getting payback. Yeah. You're getting that money as soon as someone buys something. And if you're going to go into retailers, you need to be really wary that's not going to happen. And there's a lot of companies that make that mistake, you know, going into retailers, not realizing the 90-day terms they might not even stick to. You might be like 120 or whatever. Yeah. And then landing in really bad positions. So yeah.
Okay. Because I'm just thinking there may well be some people listening to this who want to start a similar business who don't have access to the £240,000 to start with.
As well, like we started with one product.
Yeah.
You don't need to start with 10 products. One of the big pharmaceutical companies that we all know started with one, like a cold sore cream or something. Okay. And then in like 1940s and is now scaled to like $1 billion brand, like huge. But you need to just find your niche. If you're gonna, so like we sit across 3 categories. We sit across hair care, skincare, and supplement. We couldn't have launched that in the beginning. No one would have taken us seriously. Everyone would have been like, why do you have these permissions to go in 3 categories? Like, what do you know? Yeah. But we've built our authority as like the collagen experts. But that spans over into skincare because you're made of collagen. Weirdly, our skincare products don't contain collagen. Put it on your skin, it's not going to do anything. But it contains ingredients that help the matrix in your skin and in turn the collagen, if that makes sense. But yeah, just start small, really.
Do you remember your first hire that wasn't sort of a friend or family member?
Yeah, Hannah.
Regardless of whether Hannah's listening or not, good or bad decision?
Oh yeah.
First experience, were you new to hiring? How was that? Talk me through that process.
Yeah. So we still use the same recruiter actually. Get on really well with them. And he must have thought I was batshit crazy. Like I'd ring up like, what's marketing manager? How much money is that? Like what do I need? Yeah. And he's like, what do you want? I'm like, just marketing manager. He's like, no, it's not helpful.
That's not how it works.
We need a job description. I'm like, well, they'd be doing this, like blogs and blah, blah, blah. And SEO is a great way of doing like a cheaper marketing, I guess. Yeah. Search engine optimization. Your content on your website.
Amazing.
And she came for her interview and she came to our house, like me, my mum, my sister, and Brad. And I think at that point we had one of my partner's best friend's girlfriends in customer service. Okay. Still with us as well. Good at retention.
Yeah, clearly.
And I remember we were like, yeah, you're hired, like you can start on a first interview. And we always used to cook lunch for everyone. And we cooked a ham. Like that sounds so weird. And I always remember her telling me. She's like, I went home for my first day and to her partner, she's like, they cooked a ham for lunch and we all sat in at dinner together. And I was like, so weird looking back. Like these people, they trusted us like with so much.
Yeah, that's a novel first day.
Yeah, but she was ace. Like she did everything. Like she did so much stuff for us, like blogs, reaching out to customers, just doing all the stuff like liaising with agencies that we didn't necessarily have the experience to do. But yeah, there's probably been like a couple of bad hires looking back, and you can hire, and when you're interviewing them, you know it's not right. But there's been a couple of people where we've interviewed them on like Zoom, and me and Brad have looked at each other and been like, we're going to go on mute for a second. Should we hire them? Yeah, you're hired. And that's after like a 20-minute interview. But some of those decisions were great. Can't do that anymore.
One of our previous guests made a point when we had a conversation about hiring, where he said he's less focused on the people having the specific skill sets and more sort of in terms of their overall attitude, because skills can be trained. What's your approach on hiring, and what's your thoughts on that?
If someone's motivated, especially in like a D2C environment, and if someone's motivated and enthusiastic, that means more than anything. Like it's literally, I know you have to go through the criteria and you need someone that can do the job, but someone can learn the job. I 100% agree with that. If you can find out those gems of people that, you know, I don't want anyone to work 5 to 9. Like we want them to work 9 to 5. But they can just be really passionate and just enjoy their job as much as you enjoy yours. And you have those great relationships with those people, because it can be really hard to work for founders because they're so demanding of what they think good looks like. And for me, to be honest, it's been like a learning journey of not everyone can be like that.
Yeah, of course.
And it's recently, in sort of the past 2 years, we've really, you know, a lot of our company is young. So, you know, under 30 or have young kids.
Yeah.
Really female heavy. Like I think we're like 65% female or something. And appreciating that this isn't their life. Like they have a family. Like this is a small portion of their life, and you don't need to work extreme hours. You just need to enjoy what you're doing, do a good job, and everyone benefits from it at the end of the day.
And how have you instilled that balance then in the people that work at AC?
Yeah, to be honest, it was hard. Like at the beginning of sort of taking investment, like everyone's like supercharged, ready to go, and everyone wants to work all the hours, and you want everything done now, blah blah blah. Like we've had to learn as a leadership team not to be, you know, overly critical, overly ambitious in like our plans. Like the people that work for AC are incredible. Like they're great. They want us to do well. And I've walked into some office environments where you can just tell like everyone wants each other to fail, and I'm like, this is terrible. Like why are you like that? But I know that when people start with AC, like I'll speak to them a couple of weeks into their journey. I'm like, how are you finding it? And they talk about the job. I'm like, no, not the job. Like, how do you find the people? Like, are you enjoying it? And they're like, this is one of the best places I've ever worked. Like the culture. And even though, you know, you've got me there, my sister, my mum, my partner, best friends, and the dog comes to work. So it is a family environment. Yeah. But even when we're not there, like I know that everyone at work, some of them are best friends. They've recently met. They're going to each other's weddings. And going abroad with each other. So it's, I know that if the team is grumpy and sad and not doing well, I'm grumpy, sad, and not doing well. Like I'm a massive people person, and I feed off other people's like energy. So I think it's crucial to have a good culture. No, definitely, it's huge. It's what's obviously made the retention so good at AC, right? Yeah, and it's things that a lot of companies do struggle with. Definitely. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think because when we were talking about marketing, you seem to know a fair bit about it, even if you're not the marketing manager yourself. And it reminded me, I saw an interview with Dame Dash the other day where he was saying how he thinks it's really important in a business that he knows as much about the specific roles of the people he employs as possible, so that they have faith in him, that he knows and he's competent in those areas. Do you sort of have that view in terms of whether it's marketing or anything else, that like you like to keep an ear in so that you know what's going on? Right.
Everyone I employ is going to be better at that job than me, because I'm 25 and I've never done it before. Yeah. And I have an ace relationship with everyone that I managed or whatever, because I literally sit there and think, and I'll be so, I'm very, I'm quite like, not humble, that sounds a bit pathetic, but I'm very much like, you're good at your job. We've hired you because you're good at your job. I want to learn from you. You can learn from me about the brand and the story and the people, because I know the brand better than anyone else. But at the end of the day, I would love to know more about that position. And I've done pretty much every role in Absolute Collagen except finance, don't know me there. Like from customer service, etc., to operations, to marketing, to all your other bits. But I think as long as you have an appreciation for the role and you can have an appreciation for the person, and I know that they're going to do a better job than I could because I've never done it before, and you build that rapport, I don't think it's necessarily like a crucial thing. And that's a lot. It's a lot to learn about everyone's. It's a lot to do.
Yeah.
And I think it would be the optimal perfect thing, but I don't think it's practical.
Yeah, and it's also nice not to micromanage. I think that's definitely, back when I was working for other people, that was definitely one of my biggest pet peeves, was like having someone who's hired me for a job and then insists on constantly breathing down my neck about exactly how they want it done all the time.
Yeah.
And I think, giving people space, thinking you've hired them because they can do the job.
Exactly.
I think is important.
No, definitely. Just looping back then to the period where you took on investment, how did that decision come about, and what was that conversation?
Yes, it was February 2019 or February 2020, I can't remember. And we had this business, it was scaling fast, and I think we were probably doing like 13 million a year or something. And we sat down as a leadership, me and my mum. I don't call her my mum, by the way, I call her Maxine. People find that weird, so I'm just going to...
That's right, I don't call my dad either.
No, do you not? I don't call my dad Dad, but
you don't, do you?
No, I don't call my dad Dad, no. It is quite unusual, though. A lot of people don't.
Yeah, I call my dad Rob.
Okay.
And we sat down and we had this conversation, and Maxine went, what do you want to do? Do you want to sell the business? Do you want to carry on with the business? Like, what do you want to do? And I was like, we're not selling it like that. No, like we've got way further to go. And then we thought, if we've got respect for everyone in this business, we should bring some people in that have done it before, been there, done that, and can truly scale it in an appropriate, efficient way. And that was the start of us looking for investments. That was the February. And
which year was this?
February 2020.
So
not like super long ago.
Interesting time to be looking for investment, right?
Yeah, well, we weren't going to do it, and then we were like, why wouldn't we do it? I think, but we didn't need the money. That wasn't why we looked for investment. Quite cash generative business, bank balance healthy, but we thought we needed to bring some people in if we truly respected the people that worked at AC, to take it to the next level. So then we took investment in December 2020 with a company called Living Bridge. They're great. We got on really well with them. I've heard like horror stories from a lot of people about their experiences. We get on really well with them, and they've unlocked people that we couldn't have unlocked on our own. And I do believe that. Like, people could say, well, you could have found that person. I'm like, no, I don't think the people that we have on board now, say our CEO, she's ex-vice president of Amazon. I don't think she would have entrusted, 15 people working out of Maxine's house if we didn't have the backing of this big company.
Sure.
And that's no disrespect to her. I think that's the right thing to do. They brought us in, our brand director, and our COO/CFO, and they're great. They're great people.
In terms of doing the funding rounds, when you're going around sort of auditioning these people to see where you take investment from, do you have any advice for people who might be needing funding, sort of in what to look for and what to kind of vet for? Yeah,
so the way we did it is we found a company that kind of facilitated kind of acted as like the middleman between like us and the investor. We had many meetings with them about like what we wanted, what we're kind of looking for, what kind of brand we were, how we work, because we're a bit of a different company. You're not going to walk in and find everyone in suits, and you're going to find the dog in me.
That kind of company with a dog.
Yeah.
Like that.
And they kind of said, well, I think this is your pool of people. Like, here's 100 different firms, and you can there's a trade person in there. There's some small like indie investors, etc. And we were like, okay, cool. And then like, okay, we'll make the deck. So we made a big deck, which they worked so hard on, honestly. I don't know how, this is your area, isn't it? Like investment.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, we can go with that. Ish. Yeah, sure.
I don't know how they do it. Like, we'd be on calls. He'd be sending emails like 2 a.m, and I'd get on a call at 8, and they'd be like, hello. I'm like, how?
Yeah.
Where's the energy come from?
Yeah.
That's me. That's who I am.
So we had this big deck, sent it out to people, other investors, and then you get some bites like, who wants to actually meet you? And I didn't know what to expect. So they came, by this point we had an office in Telford and a warehouse, because we do all our own distribution as well, and still do. And they were like, okay, you've got 4 meetings, they're 2 hours each. Me and Maxine will be like the people representatives from AC, and we'll have the 2 guys that were facilitating the investment, and we'll just have a conversation. I was so nervous. Honestly, I thought, this is a lot of money. Like, if it all goes wrong, it's my fault. Because these people are used to dealing with like not 22-year-old
yeah.
me and her 56-year-old mum that had never worked before. And I thought it went terribly. I was like, we've ruined it, blah, blah, blah. And weirdly, I spoke to our investor now. I was like, what did you think, like, when you first came? And he was like, I wasn't sure. But someone reminded me that you can't just build a brand, because if you could just build a brand, we'd be doing it. And what you and your mum have created is really special. And then that is the investor that we went with. But it's, you gotta be honest and have that, like, a good relationship with them. Like, there was one that turned up in suits and suited and booted, and that's just
It's just not you.
yeah.
You got
Want to be more relaxed.
You got to go with what works for you. As we close out, there's one thing that we like to ask all of our guests, which is, obviously, as you're aware, the premise of this podcast is, you know, a lot of other podcasts focus on sort of high touch motivational stuff, maybe a bit more vague. We like to drill down into the practical, as you have amazingly. So we like to ask all our guests if there's one piece of practical, actionable advice that you could give, could be to do with hiring, budgeting, marketing, whatever, anything else. There's one piece of practical advice. What would you give to someone listening who's looking to start a business?
I think plan effectively, or try and plan for every eventuality, because you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
And I think if we'd done better planning in the beginning, we'd have known our data better, and then been able to make better decisions. And then knowing your data, we didn't do that at the beginning. And if we'd have known our data better, I do think we could have scaled faster.
Amazing.
But
really good.
Darcy, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much. The floor is yours. Promote whatever you like. How can people find you and Absolute?
Yeah, so you can find us on our website, absolutecollagen.com, but connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram. Yeah, happy to ever ask any questions or answer them.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Really
for being
good.
here, Darcy.
Thanks for coming on.
Cool.
Guys, what an amazing conversation. Obviously, you can find the audio on all platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss any videos that we've got coming out. We've got lots of fantastic interviews on the way. Thank you so much to Darcy for being here. I hope you all learned a lot. And if you're listening on audio platforms, make sure to rate us 5 stars and leave a review if you enjoyed it. And we will see you in the next one. This has been The Ground Floor. Take
Thanks,
care.
everyone.